This has been a lifelong progression. I cannot say definitively whether I am haunted by one or more entities. All I know is that I have been stalked by something all my life. My mother once told me something that happened when I was a baby. It was nighttime, and she woke up feeling uneasy, worried that something was wrong with me. She got up and went to check on me. When she walked into my room, she stood frozen in shock. She told me that there had been a woman dressed in white standing over my crib. The woman slowly turned to face my mother. She looked progressively sad, but my mother's adrenaline kicked in and she sprinted over to my crib, at which point she saw that my blanket was completely covering my mouth, smothering me. After that night, my mother would not allow me to sleep alone until I was much older. It is important to note that both my parents believed this woman in white was my deceased great-grandmother, who was sending signals to my mum to save me. I, on the other hand, do not believe so. Ever since I was a young boy, I've always believed something is watching me, as if some entity was evilly contemplating how best to obtain me. I have just always felt a presence around me. After high school I got a job and didn't really feel that presence creeping around me like it always had done before. However, one day when I was in the shower, the feeling of being watched returned. This was impossible. My work schedule left me alone in the house to get ready and leave. So troubled was I that I decided to look out of the shower. There was no one there. I finished the shower and then proceeded to brush my teeth, still unable to shake the feeling of being watched. I hurried up and finished, then ran into my room, got ready, and left for work. From then on, the ominous feeling of being watched was stronger than it had been ever before. The next day I was getting ready again, and felt that same cold, evil stare. I checked, still nothing. I finished in the shower and started brushing my teeth as quickly as I could, hurrying to get away to work. Because I was always the last one to leave the house, I showered with the bathroom door open. I noticed that the cat had come into the room and was staring at me. I felt relieved. It had just been the cat. I told it to quit staring at me so intensely, but it didn't. The cat was transfixed. I asked again, telling the cat it's really freaking me out and needs to go, all the while making my voice steadily rise to a yell, hoping to scare it away. The cat doesn't move. It doesn't even blink. I grab a comb and throw it at the cat, hoping to startle it. It hits the cat right in the head, yet no moving, no blinking, nothing. It was then that I realized the cat wasn't staring at me, it was staring at the mirror behind me. I turned around to face the mirror and saw a woman in white gently glide into the room. She appeared to be wearing a nightgown. The most terrifying part was that she had no facial features. No eyes, no lips, no nose, no ears. Just a blank space of white. My breath caught in my chest, and I sprinted into my room, snatched my clothes, and ran out of the house, getting dressed in the car. The next week I couldn't sleep and barely ate. I kept having nightmares and felt eyes watching me. Yet again I was in the shower washing my hair for work. I felt that presence again. I looked. Nothing there. I decided to turn away and face my shower wall, hoping it would make everything go away. It was then that I felt it move into the room with me. Suddenly I felt a hand grab my forearm and pull me. It grabbed me so hard that I fell out the shower onto the floor, almost pulling the shower curtain down with me. I rushed out of the house, once again getting dressed in my car. When I got to work, I ran to the bathroom to wash the rest of the shampoo from my hair. While working, one of my co-workers looked at me, concerned. He asked what happened to my arm, and I felt taken aback considering I hadn't told anyone what had happened to me this morning. It was then that I realized there was a dark bruise on my arm. It was in the shape of a VI, very similar to the Roman numeral for 6. After this incident, the nightmares became more intense. Every time I fell asleep, the faceless woman in white came to me in my dreams. This continued for some time until, randomly, they stopped for around a week. I felt so relieved. One morning I woke up, nightmare-free, the sun shining brightly into my room. My first thought was that this day was going to be perfect. I could have sprung out of bed. Only I didn't. I couldn't move. My entire body was paralyzed except for my eyes. It was almost as though the sun had been blotted from the sky. The mood in my room changed so suddenly. Complete dread, and the feeling that something wholly and decisively evil was there with me. I looked at my doorway, and there it stood. It was a tall, black figure, with long arms and fingers that came down to sharp points. The arms and fingers were touching the floor. The entity looked spiky all over. Just imagine the scary drawings from pretty much any child in a scary movie, and that was what this creature was. It was there with me in my room. It had dark blue eyes, and with them it stared straight at me. I will never ever forget that moment, those eyes, or that jagged, horrid, demonesque shadow. I was trying as hard as possible to move, keeping in mind that I am an athletic build and rather strong, but I was pinned to the bed. I couldn't move an inch, or amass any strength to even yell out. I knew that it had intentions to hurt me. It took one long step into my room when my cat ran over and stared at it. Growling at it, the cat jumped at the shadow, which instantly made the shadow dissipate. That was the final straw. I refused to live in that house any longer. I moved in with my grandmother. No one in my family believed what I told them. However, my dad did say that he yelled at the spirit to make it leave, in the hope that I would decide to move back in. Somewhat foolishly, I hoped he was right. However, as soon as I stepped inside that house, I was crippled with the same familiar fear. The presence was there, and it was angry that I had gone. That night when I tried to sleep, I kept hearing a woman's voice in my ear, whispering my family's names along with the horrendous acts that would befall them. After that, my sister was targeted by the entity too. She would hear noises and feel like she was being watched. As for me, the black shadow figure seemed to loom over my entire room and was just outside the corner of my eye at every angle. I once again tried moving out. This time I went to live with some friends, but the feeling followed me, as did the nighttime whispers and noises. The first night I moved in, I was startled, violently awake by the sound of a woman gasping, like she was drowning. I snapped awake, but there was no one there, and no one else in the house heard anything. Eventually I returned to my parents' house because of money problems. Wherever I go, I am followed. I am tormented. I am too scared to go to the clergy, out of fear that this may provoke this demon or whatever it is to do worse to me or my family. I fear for my sister. I fear for myself. I have been stalked my whole life by at least one evil entity, and it doesn't seem to plan on leaving me alone anytime soon. I want to tell you about a friend of mine and the entity that seems to be following her. I met Lisa at art school in 2006. She lived in the room next to mine at the dormitory, and although I at first found her a little intimidating due to the way she dressed and carried herself, we soon found out we had a lot of similar interests and became close friends. Occasionally, I would drag my mattress from my room to hers and would have a sleepover. During these sleepovers, I quickly discovered that something strange was happening. When the lights were switched off, things started moving in her dorm room. Art supplies fell off her desk when they weren't even close to the edge. Papers in boxes under her bed rustled without any kind of breeze or anything that might explain it. Lisa wasn't an especially tidy person, so she mostly stored her clothes in various piles on the floor. Several times we heard the rattling and chinking of belts and chains from the bottom of a pile. As soon as the lights were switched back on, everything was calm. The first time this happened, I was seriously freaked out and scared. but Lisa simply told me it wasn't anything to worry about. She said that it happened to her so often that she was used to it. That night she told me that whatever it was making noises and knocking things off tables seemed to be following her wherever she went. Though sometimes, she said, it would take a while to get to her again after she moved to a new place. The first couple of weeks in a new place were usually calm and devoid of any strange experiences, but before too long, it would start all over again, like that thing finally caught up with her. I got to witness this phenomenon myself at the start of 2007, when Lisa got into financial trouble and had to drop out of art school. She moved back in with her father and younger sister a few hours' drive away. Her dorm room remained empty for the rest of the semester, but because my bed in my own room was against the wall it shared with the empty one, I couldn't not notice the thumps and knocks from behind that wall. A little over a week after Lisa left, the noises suddenly stopped. Whatever had been in the room had gone to find her. I visited Lisa in her own home often during the semester and got to know her dad and little sister. I learned that her mother had suffered from seizures and psychotic periods for years before passing away a couple of years before I met Lisa. She was convinced that whatever was following her wasn't the spirit of her mother though. She couldn't explain why, but she felt certain that it was male. The happenings in their household concentrated on Lisa's bedroom and around her. Her dad also complained of frequent nightmares and kept repeating that something was wrong about Lisa's room. After about a year, she moved again, this time into her own apartment. It was here that the thing was at its most active and occasionally scariest. Her dad, who used to sleep in the living room when both Lisa and her sister lived with him, moved his bed into Lisa's old room after she moved out. However, after trying to sleep there for just a couple of nights, he moved back to the living room, once again saying that there was something seriously wrong about that room. Before too long, the entity once again left, seeking Lisa out. I witnessed strange things every time I stayed at Lisa's place. For example, when we were watching a movie on the couch, with a clear line of sight to the small kitchen corner of the apartment, we saw a spice jar fly off the shelf above the stove. It landed in the middle of the room and rolled over to where we were. If it had simply fallen off the shelf, it should have landed on the stove or right in front of it. This meant that the only reasonable explanation for the jar to have flown to the middle of the room, as it had done, was for something to have hit the wall from the other side, hard enough to send it flying. With the walls as thin as they were in that apartment complex, we would have heard that. Not to mention that nothing else on the shelf moved. That same visit was also when the thing we still refer to as the weird shampoo incident happened. Lisa bought a new bottle of shampoo, which she put in the bathroom, unopened. We both woke up a couple of times that night, always freezing cold, but didn't see or hear anything out of the ordinary. In the morning, when Lisa was going to take a shower, she found the bottle of shampoo completely empty, like it had been emptied and washed. Not a drop of shampoo was in it. Things like these were mostly just strange and confusing, like being pranked by someone we never saw. However, there was one incident that was different. This was not just a prank. One day, Lisa phoned me, clearly unnerved. She told me that something terrifying had happened. Her apartment had a small loft bedroom above the living area, so that one could stand by the loft railing and look down to see the living room and the kitchen corner. She had a mattress on the floor by this railing. That night, she woke up with the feeling of not being alone in the apartment. She tried to describe the feeling to me, but she said she couldn't really come up with words for it. It was like she could see the room below her, even though she was still lying down and would have had to have got up to look over the railing. Still, she said she really saw it, and it felt absolutely real. She described to me what she had seen. It was a vaguely human-like being, crouching in the middle of the living room floor. It resembled an old, skinny man, with the exception that its mouth was very big and open. It simply crouched there, staring at the area beneath the loft. Lisa later sketched a picture of what she saw, and it was one of the scariest things I have ever seen. That night, she was too scared to get out of bed. She squeezed her eyes shut and stayed completely still until she drifted off again. On another occasion, she woke up to what she described as the sound of heavy breathing right next to her ear. When she startled awake, she couldn't see anyone by her bed, but again felt like someone was in the apartment with her. Again, for some reason, she was convinced it was male. She only saw that crouching thing once, but she is certain that that thing woke her up by breathing in her ear so many times. Lisa has now lived in a new apartment for over a year, and things have so far been calm. I suppose it remains to be seen whether it has left her alone for good, or if it's just taking longer than usual to catch up with her. We never found out what this thing was, a spirit, a demon, or something else completely, and we probably never will. We just hope that it is gone for good. When I was in elementary school, I started getting the worst migraines I've ever had. I woke up for school one morning and couldn't move. I had sleep paralysis. My paralysed body was facing my bedroom door, so I had the perfect view of the man who walked into my room. The memory of him still haunts me. His face was horrific, twisted and grotesque. He didn't say anything, but what I imagined to be his lips were moving. The man was holding 2 large guns, similar to M16 rifles. He looked at me, then started shooting. I felt every bullet rip through my body. I could feel my lungs depleting. Still paralysed, I tried so hard to breathe but couldn't. I tried so hard until I realised I was going to die no matter what. This was the end. No screaming for help, no running. Just helpless submission to the inevitable. Right when I decided to just let go and accept my fate, the man vanished. The nightmarish apparition was gone. As soon as he left, my head exploded with pain. It hurt so much that it felt as though bugs were eating through my brain. The migraine was so strong that the daylight which poured into my bedroom was unbearable. Without hesitation, I shot out of my bed, still struggling to catch my breath, and ran to my mother's room. Whimpering and in a tremendous amount of pain, I tried to explain to her what had happened. I told her that there had been a man, and that he had killed me. I told her how badly my head hurt. She calmed me down and said I could stay home and lie in bed with her in the blacked-out room. Despite being with my mother, I was not soothed. We all have nightmares from time to time, but I knew that this had been no nightmare. This had been different. This had been real. I couldn't sleep, because of the fear of waking up to that again. My mother, on the other hand, soon fell back asleep. Almost immediately after she did, I heard a scratching noise coming from the hallway. It started close to my bedroom, then began to move along the hallway to where I was now. It sounded like fingernails, long fingernails, dragging across the wall. I could feel the darkness getting closer and closer. Finally, it reached the doorway of my mother's room. There, the noise stopped. A few moments later, I heard him. It was like he was right next to both of my ears, or even inside my head. He whispered to me, "Put the pillow over her head and kill her. She can't do anything. She's asleep. Just murder her. Make it so she won't breathe." His voice was paralyzing. I resisted. I told him that I couldn't. She's my mom and I love her. He didn't let up though. He continued to bait me, whispering to me, polluting my mind with horrific thoughts. It seemed to last for hours. When my mother eventually woke up, it was gone. The paralyzing whispering stopped, and the heavy feeling in the room dissipated. Once again, I tried to explain to her what had happened. I watched as fear filled the pupils of her eyes, but it was blamed on the headache. A few weeks passed and the dark presence was still there. It became so unbearable that I ended up moving my bed so I couldn't look at the door. One evening, just as I was falling asleep, I saw a white blur in the place where my bed had been, a figure of a man. However, the usual fear didn't seep through my body. I wasn't scared. This was different. I told my mother that there had been a man in my bedroom. She didn't believe me, and to be honest, at times I didn't believe me either. I started to think I was losing it. This continued for months. During that time, I was not attacked by the original apparition. After the appearance of the man, the dark presence kept its distance. Within this time, one of my cats, Baby Kitty, passed away. The very same night that we buried him, the man in my room was there, holding him, stroking him. I called my mom into the room, crying my eyes out, telling her that the man was there with Baby Kitty, and that Baby Kitty was all right. My mom broke down too, and hugged me tightly. It was then that she asked me to describe the man in my room. He wore a trucker hat with a dirty flannel t-shirt and ripped blue jeans. She asked me if he ever spoke to me. I told her no. I told her that he was not like the other man who haunted me, who killed me. No, he was completely different. I wasn't afraid of him. In fact, I talked to him and it felt like he listened. She accepted this with a bit of questioning in her eyes, but let it be. After that, a peaceful relationship started to emerge between me and the man. Most nights, if not every night, he would visit me in my room. Although he would never speak to me, I would always speak to him. There was, however, an underlying sense that things were not quite right. Every night as I tried to speak with the man, my dad's grandfather clock would toll at off hours, like at 2:36 a.m. I knew that wasn't right, but more than that, there was something eerie about it. Something made me want to check it out. I can still remember my confusion as I walked through the dimly lit house on my way to investigate. When I reached the clock, the toll would just stop mid-chime, like it had never even chimed to begin with. Puzzled, I went back to my room to try to sleep. Sleeping became increasingly difficult for me. One night, around 3 a.m, I was in the kitchen on my computer, just browsing the internet. Sleepless, as usual. My dog, Lady, was with me. She was beside me but kept nudging my leg and leaving. I would call her back, but each time she would do the same thing, her ears flat against her head and her tail between her legs. After she did this for a few times, I started to feel that same heavy presence as I had done so many months ago in my mother's bedroom. The darkness was back. I immediately was terrified. My fear increased tenfold when I heard that voice again. Paralyzing, high-pitched, yet with a deep crackling edge to it, like words forced through constricted vocal cords. It said, "Hey kid." Lady and I both ran for our lives. As I ran to my room, it felt as though the ground beneath me was breaking apart, and that the cold grasp of death was reaching for me with long outstretched hands. I slammed my bedroom door shut, and Lady and I stayed, without moving, under the covers until daylight appeared. That night was the scariest of my life. I have never felt terror that intense before or since. A few weeks after the incident, I found out that, before I was born, my mother's dad had died and my grandmother had remarried. I had never heard anything of this before. My mother told me after she found an old photograph of my grandfather from when she was just a girl and decided to put it on the fridge. I had gone to get the milk from the fridge when I saw him. The grandfather I had never known was the peaceful man in my room. When I told my mom, she broke down and started crying. After comforting her, she explained to me why my middle name was David. David, my grandfather, was the man in the room. However, after I found out, I never saw him again. He simply vanished. To this day, I believe that my grandfather had been protecting me from whatever dark entity had attached itself to me. I believe this is why the grandfather clock would chime at weird times whenever he was around. Although the dark presence is no longer as powerful as it once was, I haven't heard the voice since the night in the kitchen. I still feel it there, following me. I still get the migraines as well. I am 29 years old now, and I really hope I will get the chance to confront it one day. As for my grandfather, I never got the chance to thank him for protecting me. So if you're listening, Gramps, thank you. Come visit me sometime. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this episode of Real Paranormal Stories, then why not watch another? Simply check out the links on screen now. Also, if you have a true story which you would like to share, please get in touch by email. I would love to narrate it. Remember, the more you know, the more there is to fear.